10x versus 2x, if it's easier or not. I'm going to explore this. I've been looking into this and looking at some of the barriers I'm finding for myself right now, and you may be experiencing as well. Welcome to the Peak Revival Podcast. My name is Vesna. Today, I'm going to talk about if you have no energy for 2xing your life, your business, let alone 10xing. There's a lot of business strategies out there, but I want to talk about if you don't actually have the well-being to carry this out, what can you do differently? So I've been listening to some training by Dr. Ben Hardy. He wrote the book, or co-wrote the book, 10x is easier than 2x. He's fantastic. Now, initially I thought, oh, such a marketing title, right? How is 10x easier than 2x? I thought it was going to be some really complicated business strategy and just a marketing line, right? But I've been pleasantly surprised by his training. So part of the mastermind that I'm in, they offer this training with him. He comes in and does this training. It's incredible. Some of the key things that I want to share is that in order to 10x, it does seem easier in some ways than to 2x, and I'll explain the difference. So he was saying, like, every 10 years we change. There's a complete identity shift every 10 years for us. Whether we set the intention to do it or not, life will make us change, and every 10 years we change. And he was saying, like, we could make that change with intention. By setting big goals, we can make that change in 1 year, let alone 10 years. And imagine where we could be in 10 years if we made these big goals all the time. And so he's talking about, accelerating that change, doing a quantum leap. And it's purely by how you set your goals. And goals to me can be a little bit arbitrary sometimes. But in this way, it is really clear that the goal changes you and creates an identity shift and gets you to think very differently. So the more I was listening to this, it really made sense to me that 2x is harder than 10x, because if you were to say 10x your business, if you were to 2x your business, you don't really need to do an identity shift. You will just keep doing what you're doing and get that change on a linear, right? So you'll just double down, do a bit more work, and you'll 2x your results, okay? You don't have to do an identity shift. You don't have to set really big goals. You don't have to look at different pathways to get there. You're not stretching yourself. You're not accessing other resources to get to that 10x. So you're only doing 2x. So extra effort and you'll get the 2x. Obviously, the title of this podcast is if you can't even do 2x, let alone 10x, then if you don't have the energy, 2x is going to feel hard. 2x is going to feel exhausting. It's going to feel overwhelming when you don't have the mental space and capacity. But to 10x requires an identity shift. So you have to step out of who you are today and what you think you can do and what you think you can achieve, create the goal of what you want, and then your mind and your ability to get to that goal will determine your pathway, in a sense of, if I wanted to 10x my business, I would just have to do things very differently. I'd have to think differently. Everything about things that I personally do in my business would have to change. And you can look at this not just through business. You can look at this through the way that you take care of yourself, things that you do in your personal life, your relationship, whatever. But 80% of the things that we do, we will remain doing when we 2x. Okay, so if you're doing admin things, team management, the doing work, you'll keep all of that 80% and you'll keep doing that and you'll 2x. But to 10x, you need to get rid of all that. You can't do all that doing work. You've just got to focus on the 20%, which is going to get you to that goal. And so I like to think of this like even in diet and lifestyle and taking care of yourself, sometimes you could be faffing around, doing little quick wins, dabbling with this diet or dabbling with that supplement. There's no proper strategy. Maybe you're listening to experts online, but there's no cohesive strategy or plan for you to work with, right? So making little changes, but you're not going full out, right? So you're not going 10x the way that you feel, the way that you show up, your mental performance and your general performance. So 10x requires you to go full out. Like it really, the goal that you set has to be 10x. So therefore it's just going to totally stretch your mind and your inner resources, right? And this got me really excited. When I was listening to this, I was like, yes, just the growth, right? Because I love growth. I love being able to do things that I didn't think that I could do. If I look at my life 10 years ago, I wouldn't think that I would do the things that I'm doing today and do them as well as I'm doing them. I would not have believed that, right? And so I love growth. I love seeing, what you can do, how much you can change, and kind of where the edge is, like, is there an edge? Like, how much more can I do? So I got really excited by this 10x idea and who you become in the process and what skills you attain and what resources you tap into and the qualities that you express. Like, it really got me excited. And I was thinking, for all these ideas, yes, I want to do more in-person stuff. I want to do events. I want to work with people and businesses more, like do more human contact stuff. Like, obviously my business is online, my programs are online, but do more things that gets me in contact with people and delivering it in a way that makes it even easier for really busy people, professional people, successful women to get the results that they want with minimal impact to their life, right? So they can still continue doing their busy life, but know that they're doing all the right things in their physical well-being, their energy, their mental well-being, their mental performance, their focus, their metabolic health is all taken care of, right? They're moving up. So I got really excited by this. And then I thought, hold on a second, I can't do anything right now. So I don't know if you've listened to my other podcasts. I have a broken ankle. I'm still currently on crutches. Everything takes me 10 times longer to do. Just having a shower, getting dressed, making a cup of tea, everything just takes so much longer. And it's been very frustrating for me. And so for me to 10x things, I feel like it's 10x slower, let alone 10x faster. And I started to get frustrated and I started to get really overwhelmed because I had all these ideas and I can't execute them. I guess, when I was reading about this stuff, I was also in pain. And so that was taking up a lot of my headspace. And I just don't have the capacity. I don't have the movement right now to be able to do so many things, right? Sitting at the desk with my leg hanging down it causes pain after an hour or two. So anyway, I'm not here to whinge about my leg, but just to show you that I'm feeling like there are barriers for me right now that I can't do this, okay? And so it made me think about the people who you might have your own barriers. You might be, like I speak to business owners that are like so tired, they've really driven, got big goals, but they're so tired. They can't execute on those. They're just doing enough to get by. They're overscheduling themselves, they're overdoing it, overfunctioning, but they really don't have the capacity to do the 10x, okay? And they may be pushing for the 2x, but they don't have the capacity for the 10x. And I wanted to talk about this because I think it's exciting. I think there's ability for everyone to 10x in any area of your life. It doesn't need to be business. It can be in your personal care, personal fitness. It can be in your relationship. It can be in something that you do in the community. I don't know, like use your imagination. But I think that there's an ability to 10x, and I like the idea of it because of the person you will become by 10xing. You're going to have to overcome so much of your limiting beliefs. You are really going to have to step up in your body and your mind to execute on those things, right? You can't be distracted, you can't be overwhelmed, you can't have split focus, you can't be catastrophizing and have anxiety and all that stuff, right? The really busy mind that is real interference in performance, right? And so you can't have any of that when you want a 10x. And you have to be super clear about what you want. You have to cut out the things that you don't want. So it creates, creating boundaries and being really clear. I like it, right? I really like the idea of who you can become through this process and then the impact that you can create in your business relationships or your community or the world. So my question to you is, when I'm talking about this, like, do you feel like, yes, I would love to 10x too. I'd love to 10x whatever part of your life. What is it? And then what do you feel like is holding you back right now from stepping into that, right? So for me, mine is slightly on pause. I think by the time you watch this podcast, I'll be out of crutches and I'll be flying on this stuff. In the meantime, I just have to be patient and do what I can. But for you, what could be holding you back from attempting to 10x? Is it you don't have the capacity right now? You feel like you're just already overscheduled. So you have no bandwidth. I look at capacity as bandwidth rather than too much on your schedule. Some people absolutely create no space in their schedule to allow for bandwidth. That's another problem, but it all comes down to back to bandwidth. Do you not have the energy? You're not in the right environment. I don't know, like what is it for you that you feel like I would love to 10x, but something is holding me back? And what could you do to resolve that, And if you don't know what your 10x is, think about what your 2x is and then start working up from there. I think it's a really good exercise to do to kind of stretch your mind. If you're someone who is driven and likes to change and do different things, then this is a really cool topic and thing to explore to see what your 10x goal is and who you become in that process. So with all that said, I'd love for you to leave me a comment below if you see the comments. What would your 10x goal be? And if you don't want to even list that goal, what would be holding you back from achieving a 10x goal right now? Let me know in the comments below.